Morning everyone. So in this video I'm going to talk about how I try to apply Xeriscaping principles in my gardens. So I could save more water right here in the garden. So this is not my garden. I'm renting this house, but the owner of this house tell me that I can do anything with the garden. So now I'm gonna try to apply what I learned when I do my postgraduate project to actually save some water in this garden. All right. A little bit about me, if you guys don't know who I am. My name is Long and I am studying Master of Environment or not. I'm not actually studying anymore. I have just finished my last assignment of this degree, which is Master of Environmental Science at Edith Cowan University. And for my last postgraduate project, what I do is that I study how the community gardens in the city of Stirling do in terms of water conservation, and I try to score them, give them a grade based on Xeriscaping principle. And if you guys just like me, the first time I heard about the term Xeriscaping principle, I don't even understand what it means. I thought it was Xeriscaping? What does it mean? It sounds so weird. But in source, Xeriscaping is just a concept about landscape design where you try to reduce the amount of water used in the landscape, and also, but the landscape still have all of the functions. For example, when you design a park, you still want it to be a park, right? But then you want it to use less water. So that's what Xeriscaping about. It's about designing the landscape, still look beautiful, still have a place for children to play, still have a place for people to do recreations. But then it's also sustainable in terms of water conservation, and that is really important. I don't know I'm in focus or not, but I will try. So the first principle of Xeriscaping is actually plan and design. And for the garden, it's really different from other landscaping, for example, the park or other normal gardens. For community gardens, especially food garden, the focus is on food productions. So in terms of planning design, it's expected to use the garden to use more water than maybe the park in Xeriscaping, because we have to produce food, right? That's the purpose of a food garden. So the first one is planning and design. In planning and design, you want to really intention in the design of the garden, so that after the garden is developed, it's going to use less water. So, for example, the owner of this garden is not really design the garden to be water wise. Let's say where my fire. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see on the camera or not, but the whole garden is just for food production, and we have like a small lawn in here, which I don't know is going to do anything, the purpose of it, but maybe it acts like a small playground for the kids, but it is too small. And also, yeah, mostly the whole garden is for growing food. We have fruit tree over here. I don't know what the English name of this one. And then we have the vegetable over there. So overall, we're gonna need a lot of water to produce food. Let's take back. All right. So a lot of water to produce food. And how can we design the garden that's gonna use less water? So the first thing is that we have to divide the garden into different zones. We're gonna have 3 types of zones. The first one is the low zone, second one is moderate zone, and the third one is high water zone. So we have to design the garden according to these 3 water zones. So what is the low, moderate, and high water zone? When I study about Xeriscaping, in Xeriscaping principle, they said that the low water zone is the zone that you don't need to water the plants. Basically, the plant only need water from the rain. That's in the low zone. The moderate zone is where you only water the plant when necessary. So when the plant shows some signals of water stress, for example, the leaf is wilt or it have dark green gray color, then you're gonna water them to water them, and that's in the moderate zone. And finally, the high zone is the place where you water the plants regularly. For example, just like this garden, the vegetable gardens is actually the high zones where you have to water regularly, or even the lawn. So in Xeriscaping principle, they really focus on minimize the area of tough grass area, because the lawn's gonna use a lot of water. And if you want to maintain healthy lawns, just like this one, alright. So if you want to maintain the lawn that look green and healthy like this, you're gonna need fertilizer and a lot of water to maintain it. But it also depends on the type of lawn that you use, the type of grass that you use. So if you use like the grass that require less water and really have drought tolerance, that's great. You don't need to water it that often. But in most cases, the lawn gonna be really use a lot of water to maintain it. If you are staying in Perth, in Western Australia, you're gonna see most of the park gonna have a really big lawns, big tough grass area, and it's actually use a lot of water to maintain like a green tough grass area. Without water, the tough gonna become yellow and dry and die out. So the lawn is something that you have to keep in mind when designing the landscape, designing the garden. But we cannot eliminate the lawns completely. We cannot eliminate the grass area completely, because it is still nice to have a place for the kids to run, still nice to have a place for the dog to go out, to run on their own. We can like play football and stuff on the lawn. So it is still really essential in landscape design. But we can minimize it. So instead of make like a big area of lawns where people like try so hard to kick the ball, but the ball cannot like fly all the way to the tough area. Instead of that, we can just design it's big enough for people to still, that people can still enjoy, and they are not complaining. Everyone is enjoy the tough area, and also minimize it. So based on the activities, for example, if the landscape is used for football, yep, it's gonna need a really big tough area. But the football field doesn't need to be too big. It just needs to be big enough. For example, the field is only used like for few players, and like we can just minimize it to 7 people teams, or we can do like a big, only design a big football field, and that should be enough. Doesn't need to be the lawn over the side of the football field, you know. If the side of the football field is like this rectangle, that's it. That's gonna be the tough area. Outside of that, don't put more tough area in there. All right, just for the sake of saving water. And I forgot to talk about why do we have to save water, especially in Western Australia. I totally forgot to talk about that. So basically, everyone knows it's climate change. It's getting hotter here. In some other place, there might be more rain, more flood, but especially in Western Australia, we are getting less rainfall every year. Less rainfall. What does it mean? It means our population are increasing significantly, and then the water supply is decreasing. To cope with that, the government have to build a lot of desalination. But even though desalination can get like a huge amount of water, fresh water from the sea, but it doesn't mean that these water are free. And it doesn't mean that the desalination plant can supply water for human needs and the nature needs. So for example, even though the human needs is met, so every house have water, don't worry about it. The desalination plant gonna supply water for every house. That's all right. But then how about the nature? What if the groundwater is so low that the tree cannot reach to the groundwater to get water? They're gonna die out. All of the plants gonna die out. Or the river rise, how the animal gonna drink? We cannot pump expensive seawater desalination into the river for the nature, right? So it's still really important to save water, even though WA is build more desalination plants. It's still essential to save water. All right, let's go back to our plan and design. So that is the three way that you can three different zone that you can design your garden accordingly. And usually in low zone, you're gonna have the street, the service area. So for example, this is the service area of my garden. So basically there is not much plant here, and we have the garden street where I store a lot of things in there. Here we don't need to water this one, so no water here, no water over here too, no water. And the owner just put some sprinkler over below these trees. So basically this is the service area, or I can say it's a low zone area, or even this one. This is a low zone area where there's no need for irrigation regularly. All right. Besides service area, you can also design the low zone with the native trees. So native Australian plants are really drought tolerant. It has high ability to adapt to severe climate, for example, to the drought. And all of the other plants in the garden that is non-native to Australia, they're not gonna have that ability. So if you want to design a low water zone where you don't really have to water anything, you can just put a lot of native plants or xeric plants, the type of plants that doesn't need irrigation. It only need rainwater once in a while. So for example, I can show you that I'm trying to redesign this garden to achieve water conservation. All right, so the first part here gonna be the high zone, where I will keep the water running 2 times a week, and 4 times a week and 15 minutes every time. That's a recommend by Water Corporation, where you have sprinkler, you can only water around like 16 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes per day and 2 days a week at the moment. So I am designing this area to be my low water area. However, there's still sprinkler, as you can see over there. I'm not the owner of this house, so I cannot really do anything about it. And beside that, the owner didn't like separate the zones of this one. But I'm starting to like applying what I learned at the university to see, to at least do something about it. So as you can see here, I have put some native plant in this place just to make this place only have native plants, and maybe in the future I don't have to water this part of the garden. Here is some of the xeric plants that I put in recently. This plant doesn't need that much of water, and as you can see, the way of the leaf, it really adapts to the drought environment. And here one of those, but these are kind of dangerous. Too dark for you guys. Alright, here are some of the plant that is adapt to the weather, the right weather. Alright, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to design the garden to use less water. Now, that's the blending and design. We have talked about low, moderate. Moderate zone gonna be some kind of fruit tree, or maybe grape trees. Just like over there, we have a grape plant, grape tree over there. And if I can redesign this garden, that's gonna be the place doesn't need irrigation system. And when I can see like some sign of water stress in the plants, I can just water it by hand or using a hose, water hose. All right, let's move to the next one. Irrigation efficient irrigation. So this is, I think, this is one of the most important thing about water conservation in landscaping and in your garden, because no matter how hard you try to apply all of the principle, if you are not like mindful or aware of how much water you use for irrigation, it doesn't matter, because you have to know how much water the plant needs. For example, it only needs 15 minutes of irrigation once every 2 weeks, but because you don't know the truth that they only need one irrigation every week, you're afraid that the plant's gonna die out because of the heat from the sun. So you just water 3 times a week for that plant. That is just the typical scenarios. People tend to over water the garden just for the sake of watering, and because they're afraid that the plant's not gonna have enough water. But in reality, the root of the plant's gonna go around 30 centimeter deep, and if at that 30 centimeter depth of the soil, if it still have water, you don't really need to water plants. When that 30 centimeter depth is dried out, that's the time that you water your garden. So very mindful about how much you watering, like how much the plant, how much water do the plants need, and try to irrigate when as the plant demands. That's it. Don't try to over irrigate it. Also, the type of irrigation is really important, the type of irrigation system. So the most water efficient type of irrigation system right now is actually dripping system. So the dripping system is going to take a lot more work when start up, and it's also going to take more maintenance, I think so, because you have to install a long pipe line throughout the garden area, and try to do drip in it. But the very good thing is that it's gonna drip the water right into the root zones of the plants, and it's gonna minimize the water evaporate to the sun, because it lies under the ground and you can just cover the garden with soil or cover it with mulch to protect the water from evaporating from the drip system, and that's gonna be really great. However, you're gonna have to do a lot more maintenance, and because sometimes they're gonna be leak in the pipe and it's gonna leak a lot of water. So be mindful about that. However, there is one more way that you can reduce water without the irrigation system, without using any irrigation system, which is using wicking beds. When I study about Xeriscaping, they have never mentioned about the wicking beds. But when I go into the community garden, I see them apply in wicking beds, and some garden even told me that they don't even use any water because the wicking bed is so efficient that they don't really need to do any irrigation at all over the course of the rainy seasons. So the wicking bed is one of the best ways right now for you to save water in your vegetable gardens. And I have read the study, research about they compare between the wicking bed system and the best irrigation system, which is the irrigation system that they use, that they only irrigate the plants according to the plant needs. So it's a really, really efficient irrigation system, and they take that, compare with the wicking beds, and you know who won? They are both equal. So what they found out is that the plants grow in the wicking beds is also as healthy as the plants grow in the very efficient irrigation system. And the wicking beds may be better. It could be better than the most efficient irrigation method out there. So, in conclusion, if you can set up a wicking bed system, it's gonna tremendously conserve water in your garden, and maybe you're gonna be so water wise that the water corporation gonna come to your house and what did you do? Why you didn't use any water in the garden? All right. So that's a really fascinating thing that I found out about wicking beds. It might take a lot more time to set up, but after setting up, you don't really have much thing to do after that. You just need put the plant in there, fill it up with the water, and then the plant just grows. It's gonna reduce a lot of maintenance in the garden. That's the best way for lazy people. Don't need to do much gardening and still have plants, vegetables to eat. All right, let's move to the third one, use of mulch. So in the garden, I'm trying to use a lot of mulch. Before that, the owner doesn't have any mulch in the garden, and this is what I have just put into it. Mulch gonna help cover the ground from the sun. Like wood chip is really good mulch. This is really good mulch. It's gonna cover the ground. So here is the native soil, very sandy soil, and as you can see, I'm touching right here and it is still wet. Amazing, it is still wet. It's still wet in here. The thing about soil in Western Australia is that it's really sandy. And the characteristic of sandy soils is it have good water drainage, but it has low capacity to hold water. So what does that mean? It means that whenever the water from the sprinkler go, it can be evaporate really quickly. As you can see, when I try to pick over here, the place where there is no mulch, it's just sandy and dry. doesn't wet like the other place with mulch. So mulch, what mulch do? They just cover the soil and keep the soil wet. It keeps the soil wet. It reserves water for the soil, for the plant. That's why you can see this plant right here is not really big, right? Compared to the one in here. Pretty good, right? So that's the use of mulch. In Xeriscaping principle, they encourage people to use a lot of mulch to cover the ground of the garden, and especially in Perth in WA, where most of the place have sandy soils, where the water gonna evaporate really quickly, or it's gonna drain down very quickly. Is it really beneficial to apply wood chip like this, organic mulch, where they can cover the surface, prevent the water from evaporating, and then they can also break down over time and add organic matter to the soils, which gonna help the soils increase their water holding capacity. That's so good, so good. So after this video, I want every one of you go into the garden. You don't have to buy these mulch in Bunning. You don't have to do it. It's expensive. I take all of these mulch just around the neighborhood. So when I bring my son to the Nulamara's primary school, they have like a big pile of wood chip next door. So every time I get my son to school, I just bring two box and a thing to get the mulch into the box and then bring it home, put it into the garden. No money, totally 100% free. Instead, if you guys have to calculate my gas to do the delivery, which I have to actually get my son there every day. So yeah, it's 100% free mulch for you to get. You don't need to go to Bunning and buy all of that stuff. It's absolutely free. You can also find like wood chips online. Just searching for wood chip. If you have a big front yard, you can just input your address into the website, and when they have a truck of wood chip, they're gonna go and dump all of that wood chip in front of your house. I really want to do that, but we don't have a really open door for them to go in. I have to wait for them. So actually, I just go to the wood chip, a pile wood chip, and take it home. Really easy. The fourth principle is water efficient plants. Just like I have shown you guys over there. Xeriscaping principle encourage people to use more xeric plants, to use more native Australian plants, the type of plants that doesn't need a lot of water, the type of plants that only need rainwater, to put it into the garden. It also create a biodiversity in your garden, so that all of the native animal, native bees can come in, native bird can come in and enjoy the fruit of the plants or enjoy the flower. So it's really beneficial to put more native Australian plants into the garden. It's also conserve water and add more beneficial environment to the biodiversity. Why not do it? And you can find, you don't need to buy at Bunning too. One time I go to Kings Park and they just give away free seed for free. Natural trees, natural plants, they give away for free. Or I can go doing volunteering. I used to do planting volunteering, and after that, the organizer also give me some free native plants to bring home and plant in the garden. So it's really easy, free stuff, good stuff. The next one is about practical tough area, just like I talked before. tough area is consume a lot of water, so make sure to minimize it, but don't eliminate it. It's a really good area for the kids to play, for people, for the dog to run around, so don't eliminate totally your tough area. But be mindful about what you're gonna use with the tough area. Will you gonna do a lot of sport? Will it's gonna be the kid playground? Is there any alternative? For the kid playgrounds, you can actually eliminate the tough area and put sand in there, or you can put a lot of wood chip in there, and the kid can still play on wood chip or play on the sand. They also really love sand, so why you have to use the tough grass, which consume a lot more water compared to the sand area doesn't need any water, and the kids really enjoyed it. If I have to do it, I'm gonna replace these into a sand area for my kids to play. All right, the next one is about soil preparation. So as I say, the soil texture in Western Australia is really sandy. It has low ability to keep water in the soil. So one thing you can do is to add more compost into the soil. Organic matter gonna have, like hold that water in the soil, and it can also improve the texture of the sandy soils. Add more organic matter, cow manure, chicken manure. Just put a lot of organic matter into the soil. Gonna be really beneficial for your garden, and especially the vegetable love it. And the final one, appropriate maintenance. So to have the garden that use a lot less water, you also need some maintenance. Xeriscaping principle doesn't have to be no maintenance at all, even though I would love to do that. I would love to have the garden grow on its own, and I can do all the things inside and still have food outside to eat once in a while. I would love to do that, but then you still need some small maintenance. For example, the appropriate maintenance is that, for example, the irrigation system, you have to check it once in a while to see that is it leaking or not, or is there some plants that is like growing too much. For the maintenance, to save water, you don't need to prunch the plants a lot. Reduce it. Only prunch where necessary. So only do maintenance where necessary. Because when you cut the plants, it's gonna need more water to grow new leaf, to grow new branch. So one way to conserve water is actually doing a little bit less maintenance than usual. Don't need to overdo it. All right, so that's the 7th principle of Xeriscaping and how I apply it right now into this garden. Hopefully you guys get some amazing information out of this one, and yeah, see you in the next video.